What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jimmy Talks. I have not made a Minuteman or guerrilla warfare video in a hot minute, so I owe you something good. Something that's the best of the best. Because I only strive for greatness, and I wish to tell my audience incessantly and nonstop to do so as well. So this video is going to be a huge breakdown on a lot of basic Minuteman shit. Not some advanced stuff, that can come later, but this is just a basic groundwork foundational tool. This is merely just a guide though, and if you're serious, it's a video to return to every so often to follow as a guide, while you go out in the real world and train with your people, or your tribe. We can talk knowledge all day long, but only when putting it into practice will you succeed. Now, before we get into it, I just want to tell you, check out the timestamps down below to jump to the part of the video that interests you the most, or sit back and enjoy the whole entire thing. Now, let's get one thing straight, because haters and ugly people who are all over the internet, nothing new. These people are akin to that of an annoying fly. They just buzz around and they make stupid noises, but ultimately they're useless. This is not a video about LARPing. This is not about playing soldier. This is about reclaiming a fundamental competency that has been systematically stripped from our people, and that is the ability to provide for our own security and to navigate uncertain times, and to stand tall and resilient against all threats, both foreign and domestic. The world is not getting simpler or safer, and truth be told, it never has been that way. It's been a perpetual struggle throughout all of humanity, and there is always an ongoing battle, whether it's a physical war, economic warfare in less than prosperous times, or straight up spiritual warfare, and the erosion of Christianity. The institutions that are supposed to protect us instead often view us, the productive, family-oriented, traditionally minded, patriotic Americans, as the primary threat. This video is for the man or the patriot who recognizes this, or the father who wants to protect his family, and or the neighbor who understands that community is our greatest asset. It's built on a simple premise. Hope is not a strategy. Preparedness is. Now, we're 2 minutes into the video. If you've clicked the timestamps and you've already moved on, then that's great. But I want to keep on going further very shortly for this intro. We're going to cover essential skills from the ground up. This is practical knowledge, and it's the kind that our grandfathers knew and we have forgotten. It is your responsibility to learn it, practice it, and pass it on. Forget the Hollywood action hero and video game shit, which, yes, is funny considering the background of this video is a video game, but I digress. I started this YouTube channel as a Call of Duty commentary channel, and it's simply just going to stay that way. Anyways, this is about the quiet, deliberate work of becoming a well-trained civilian, both as an individual and as a community. Now, let's begin. Let's get into the mindset of a Minuteman. This includes different facets of thinking, situational awareness being one of the most obvious ones, but nonetheless, these are all essential. Call it brain gains, if you will. Now, before you buy a single piece of gear or practice a single rifle drill, you must fix your head. Gear is useless without a brain running behind your eyes. The guerrilla mindset, or the dissident mindset, is what will keep you alive when your plans fall apart. Now, the first one is going to be situational awareness. This should be your primary weapon at all times. This is your most important skill. It's not about being paranoid, not at all, actually. It's just about being observant. Most people walk through life in a bubble, and a comfortable one at that, staring at their phones, oblivious to their surroundings, and I've seen multiple times, people crossing a street without looking both ways, even when traffic is going by, or just driving while staring at their phone and veering off the road slowly, completely oblivious to the fact that they could die in a second because of their own comfortable carelessness. You cannot afford to do this dumb shit. Practice the OODA loop in daily life instead. This includes observing, orienting, deciding on a plan of action, and acting. Let's go over each one of these. Now, for observe. Actively scan your environment. In a coffee shop or a restaurant or anywhere you go, even a Walmart or something, take note of the exits, the people, what they're wearing, and what they're doing. Who looks out of place? Where are the cameras? Orienting. Process what you see after observing. That guy in a heavy coat on a hot day, walking with a limp. Anyone who's lived in the hood before can easily tell you that this looks suspicious. And yes, I've seen it before, but dudes will shove whole entire shotguns down their pants to conceal it. It's strange behavior. Take note of this stuff. Or something like a van parked oddly. The same car you saw near your home is now at the grocery store. This is where you fit the observation into your understanding of the world. Now, let's go over decisions. Based on your orientation, make a decision. Do I leave? Do I change my route? Do I change nothing at all? Do I alert my family or my team? Next, let's go over acting. Whatever your plan is, now you must follow it. Execute your decision swiftly and calmly. Start doing this everywhere. Driving, shopping, walking the dog. Make it a habit. It should become as natural as breathing. Now we're done with that. Let's go over the gray man concept now. In any sort of deteriorating situation, you do not want to stand out and stick out like a sore thumb. The goal as the Minuteman or prepared civilian is to be the gray man, which does not mean wearing a multicam t-shirt, open carrying, with 511 pants on, a Punisher hat, cop glasses, and combat boots on. No, it means being invisible, forgettable, and blending in easily into the background. This means dressing like everyone else, and you probably do this every day already. But you also need to be moving with a sense of purpose, but without drawing attention and not advertising your capabilities. Wearing tactical gear in patches in public, driving a loud vehicle covered in political stickers, just marks you as a target. The most effective dissident is the one who nobody notices. Your strength should be a surprise, and revealed only when necessary. Let's go over the mindset of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Side note, as I said earlier on in the video, there is timestamps. If you want to skip this stuff, although I do think it's important, go ahead and look at the more high-speed stuff. Alright, moving on. Modern life is engineered for comfort. This makes us soft. You have to actively seek out and become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Go for a run in the rain. Sleep on the floor occasionally. Spend a weekend without electricity if you want. This isn't about simply punishing yourself for no reason, though. It actually has a purpose. The purpose is about recalibrating your baseline. When a real crisis hits, the man who is used to discomfort will adapt far faster than the soy bot. And I call this very loosely an air quote man who gets very angry and irrational because his Wi-Fi is down, or when he loses in a video game. Now, last for the mindset portion of this video. You must be ethical to your people and with a strong sense of what's right and wrong. You're not a predator, you are a protector. Your skills are for the defense of yourself, your family, your tribe, and your way of life. This is a critical distinction. It provides the moral boundaries that prevent you from becoming the very threat that you seek to resist. Know what you're fighting for, like your family, your faith, and your homeland, and let that be your guide. Righteousness and honor is a massive force multiplier. Now, let's get into the hands-on skills. We'll start with Fieldcraft. Fieldcraft is the art of existing in the natural environment without leaving a trace. It's what allows a small group to move, hide, and survive undetected. First up is camouflage and concealing yourself. Let's make a distinguishment here. Concealment is hiding from view, using things like foliage and bushes, walls, or shadows. Camouflage is blending in with your surroundings. It's not just about pattern, it's about breaking up your human silhouette. Avoid clean, straight lines when applying face camo. Wear a camo that matches whatever your local surroundings are. You can also use mud and vegetation to camouflage yourself further. Last but not least for covering yourself is light discipline. This extends beyond flashlights too. Using a lighter for lighting up a cigarette is bright, and so is the cherry from the cigarette. Same thing with a vape. Usually a little light is visible whenever it's powered on or whenever it's being hit. Light discipline is very important. At night, any light is a beacon. Use red lens headlamps if you must. Use a light. And shield it carefully. This means covering yourself completely when you're using a red light, by throwing your blanket over yourself or your poncho or whatever it is you have to cover the red light all the way. Red light is easier to hide to the naked eye than white light. And also, this is pretty obvious, but never shine a light towards potential threats, even if you're trying to mark to someone where an enemy is and they're far away. light discipline is a must. Let's now move on to field sanitation and hygiene, which is something I don't see enough of being covered in tactical content or videos. This is unglamorous, stinky, and gross, but it's absolutely critical. Poor hygiene will incapacitate you faster than an enemy bullet. A sizable amount of casualties in wars, history shows, is from disease, not from getting shot. With that being said, in this unglamorous and, no pun intended, shitty topic, let's talk about shitting in a hole real quick. Yep, I said that. For human waste, or feces, dig a hole that is deep enough to cover it. Do your business, bury it, and put the TP in there. Sometimes you may even need to go so far as to putting it into a Ziploc bag. As nasty as that sounds, but it very much so hammers home the concept of leaving no trace. And you can verify this yourself with some Googling if you don't believe me that soldiers sometimes shit in a bag or put their poopy toilet paper in a Ziploc bag and then put it into their bag. But yeah, burn it later if you can do it safely if you have to put your shit in a bag. Location is also key though when doing your business. You should be kind of far away from any water source, or trail, or camp, or in other words, areas where humans would frequently traffic. Let's go over hygiene real quick, which isn't as nasty as having to shit into a bag. Now, for washing yourself, use unscented soap. It's as simple as that. Scented deodorants, shampoos, and soaps can be smelled from distances further than you think, especially when going against other soldiers who are in the same predicament as you when they're living outside and in the field. Trust, you can smell that shit, no pun intended, further away than you think. Go scent-free in the field. Also, get used to cleaning yourself with baby wipes, as sometimes the shower just won't be available to you. It sucks, but it is what it is. Remember what I said earlier. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Let's go over trash and garbage now and touch up on what I mentioned earlier, which is the concept of leaving no trace. So, for trash, you packed it in, you pack it out. All of it. Candy wrapper from an MRE, tape on your rifle that's peeling off, everything. It doesn't matter what it is, clean it up. It's not because you're a tree hugger, it's because trash is a clear sign of recent human activity. Burn what you can safely and pack out the rest. Now, we're done with sanitation and hygiene. Let's move on to shelter systems and sleeping. And you will be rudely awakened, no pun intended, to the concept of fire guard. Now, for shelter and sleep, your shelter is your sanctuary. It provides protection from the elements and a place to rest. You can't fight the enemy if you haven't slept in 2 or 3 days. Okay, maybe you can theoretically, but you're not going to be effective, and chances are you aren't a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret, and you're not built different like them. You're probably not that guy, and that's okay because most of us aren't. Sleep is important regardless of who you are, and you need it. The first thing we'll go over is where you'll actually sleep, like the location specifically. So for site selection, choose a location that is defensible, concealed, and dry. High ground is best for visibility and drainage, meaning you won't wake up soaking wet because it rained while you were sleeping and you woke up wet. Ask me how I know that can happen. But yeah, when sleeping in a high ground area, make sure to avoid highlighting yourself with your silhouette. Sleep slightly below the top of a hill, for example, not directly on the top of the hill, unless it's covered with a shit ton of trees or something. Even then, the advice still applies and you can still highlight yourself. And you should just not do this. Also, you should probably avoid valleys and riverbanks where cold air and water collects a lot, as this is just going to make your life suck a little bit more. But, as with anything, METTC applies here, and you may need to sleep in a shitty area because it's the only option afforded to you. Now, we're done with site selection, let's go over the shelter itself that you can use, and there's a bunch of different types. A simple tarp and paracord can create a variety of effective shelters. Ideally, though, just buy a surplus rain poncho or two and some 550 cord and make a tent out of that, as they're designed to not only be a poncho, but also a shelter system. Learn a few basic designs. This is all over YouTube. The goal is to stay dry and out of the wind, not to build a log cabin. Remember, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And obviously, not everyone in your platoon or squad can just go to sleep at the same exact time when you're in a hostile area. You need security established for something like this. This brings me to fire guard and security personnel. Your weapon, while you're sleeping, should be immediately accessible, even when you're sleeping, especially when you're sleeping. Put it inside your sleeping bag with you and sleep on top of it. It's your new babe, and when you're sleeping in the combat zone, cuddle your baby like she's all yours. Not only that, but you need to sleep in shifts if you are with a team. One person at the bare minimum should always be on watch. Again, METTC will dictate how many guys are pulling security, like where you are and the size of your group. But security is non-negotiable regardless. This is what FireGuard is. Now, let's go over building a fire real quick. Fire provides warmth, light, cooked food, and purified water. You must know multiple ways to start a fire. The most primitive way is kindling from a tree branch or something, some flint and steel, with a ferro rod. The more modern option is weatherproof matches or a lighter. Get a Bic lighter or a Zippo, not those cheap, crappy lighters that you can see through. Well, whatever you get, make sure you keep it in a Ziploc bag so it's waterproof, and some rain doesn't kill your lighter. And also, make sure you keep 2 lighters, not 1. Now, next, learn how to build a fire that will light easily and burn efficiently, even in wet conditions. There's the teepee method, the log cabin, and lean-to fires, and these are good ways to keep a fire going. Anyone who's drank in the woods with the boys as a teenager knows what I'm talking about. You probably already know this without even realizing it if you've partied at a bonfire before. I was always the kid at the bonfire scrounging for wood and keeping the fire lit because I am autistic like that. But last but not least, do not be reckless with starting a fire. It's the same thing with light discipline. You need to have fire discipline. Keep fires small and controllable. Only have a fire if the tactical situation allows for it. If you're deep in a shitty situation, starting a fire is probably a bad idea. The smoke and the light can give away your position for miles, especially under night vision. This now wraps up the Fieldcraft part of the video. I'm going to move on to basic infantry movement techniques, or individual movement techniques. Brent 0331 has an excellent video on this. Check it out ASAP if you haven't already. I'll provide a screenshot here. That video pretty much explains everything that this section of the video is going to explain. And no, I'm not affiliated with him whatsoever. He doesn't even know who I am. He is just a guy with some top-notch videos on basic infantryman shit, and I thought I'd share his channel. Now, basic movement techniques. This is about moving from point A to point B without getting shot. It's a mix of using cover and minimizing your exposure to enemy guns and their employed weapon systems. Let's talk about the difference between cover and concealment real quick. Cover stops bullets, like sandbags, heavy trees, engine blocks in a car, and concrete walls. Concealment only hides you and doesn't stop bullets, like bushes, shadows, and curtains. Always know the difference. A shrub might hide you, but a .308 round will pass right through it. Both are useful in their own right, but you must know when and which one is best to use. One of the first movement techniques, though, you should learn is the I'm up, he sees me, I'm down drill. This is the fundamental movement technique for crossing open danger areas. Now, for the I'm up part of the saying, and from a concealed position like the prone position or behind cover, you quickly rise to a low crouch or a sprinting stance. For the he sees me part, you sprint across the open area in a zigzag or unpredictable pattern for maybe 2 to 3 seconds. Move fast and erratically. A moving target is harder to hit. For the I'm down part, you dive or slide into your next piece of cover or concealment. Get small and get down immediately. This is made for traversing dangerous areas while actively under fire and quickly. The entire movement should take 3 to 5 seconds. If you can't make it across in that time, use smoke grenades, which, yes, civilians can get a hold of, or your team for suppressing fire. But sometimes you have to resort to other measures when shit is too tough. That brings me to moving while prone. Sometimes you can't even stand up. There's 2 methods of moving while you're in the prone position, and prone means being on your belly. There's the high crawl and the low crawl. Again, reference Brent 0331's video from earlier to see this better. Now, for the high crawl, here's what the high crawl looks like. Your belly is on the ground, but you're up on your elbows and your knees. This is for when you have concealment like tall grass or maybe a divot that you're crawling in between, but not necessarily cover. It's faster than a low crawl, and it's best used in micro terrain. Then there is the low crawl. Your entire body is flat on the ground. You pull yourself forward with your elbows and your toes. This is slow and it's very exhausting, but it offers the lowest possible profile. Use it when you have very low concealment or are moving directly under an enemy's field of view. Now, we have gone over some very basic individual movement techniques. Now, let's go over some team movements and formations, because you will not operate alone for long. Working as a team, though, requires practice, as well as silent communication and knowing how to move together, so you won't be tripping over each other and confused about what's trying to be said to each other. Hand and arm signals for communicating in silence is what I'll go over first. When silence is critical, which is a lot of the time, you communicate with your hands. Everyone on the team must know the basic signals. Practice them until they are second nature. The first one is halt, and many of you already know this from watching war movies. Raise your hand straight up with your fists closed. Next is enemy spotted. Point towards the enemy, then give the number by holding up your fingers. Next is rally point. Make a circle with your thumb and index finger, with your other fingers extended. Next is move out. Arms swung forward and down in the direction of the movement. Next is danger area. Pat the top of your head. It could be a linear danger area or an open danger area. Hand and arm signals are pretty straightforward. Now, you need to know how to actually move in a formation with your team. Formations are about control, security, and flexibility. The first and most commonly used, even for school-aged children, is the file. This is single file, by the way. It's used for moving along trails, through dense brush, or in low visibility. The point man leads, followed by others at a set interval, usually 5 to 10 meters. This is so a single grenade, a single mortar, or an employed machine gun doesn't kill all of you at once. It's a way to minimize casualties, so make sure your spacing is adequate, but not too far away so you don't lose each other. The last man in the file has an important job. They're responsible for security to the rear. It's a simple formation, but it's vulnerable to ambush from the flanks. Use it when you need to, regardless. Next formation will be a line, and it's exactly what it sounds like. A line formation is for searching an area or assaulting an objective. Team members are spread out side by side, with adequate spacing between each other, just like in a file. This allows the team to bring maximum firepower to the front, but it's harder to control over a larger group of people, as some people may be ahead or behind. Last, but definitely not least, is the wedge formation. This is the most common patrol formation. The team leader is at the point of the wedge. Other members fall in behind and to the sides, forming a V shape. This provides good all-around security and is very flexible. It allows the entire team to pivot quickly to face a threat from any direction. Now, with movement, mindset, sanitation and hygiene, fieldcraft, and individual movement techniques and squad-size element movements covered, now let's go over some basic drills. For the Minuteman, meaning a smaller and less trained force with not as much arms and ammo as a professional army, ambushes will be the bread and butter. So this is what I will cover primarily. When things go wrong, they go wrong fast. You don't have time to think and only to react. That's why you practice these drills. Before you can react to one, though, you need to know how an ambush is built. Most ambushes are variations on a few simple but deadly themes. The first one is the linear ambush, or the L-shaped ambush. This is the king of ambushes for a small team. It's simple, effective, and leverages firepower perfectly. This is how it works. The long leg of the L is the support element, usually a machine gun or multiple rifles. It is placed parallel to the enemy's expected route of travel. This allows it to fire down the entire length of the enemy column, breaking it with machine gun fire. The short leg of the L is the assault element, and this is positioned at a right angle to the kill zone. Their job is to seal the front, or the rear, of the kill zone and deliver the decisive blow. It works extremely well because it traps the enemy in a crossfire. They are caught between the hammer, or the assault elements, and the anvil, or the support element. There is no easy way to return fire effectively. It's a meat grinder. Next is the line ambush, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a straight line. It's a simpler version where all ambushers are on one side of the kill zone. It's easier to control but doesn't create the devastating crossfire of an L-shaped ambush. It's more of a volley of fire. Next is the V-shaped ambush. The elements are placed on both sides of the trail, forming a V with the open end facing the enemy's approach. This creates an immediate and brutal crossfire from both flanks as the enemy walks into the point of the V. It's extremely lethal, but can be more dangerous due to the setup and the risk of elements firing into each other. It requires good fire discipline. It's good for conducting on a valley when you have the high ground, so there's less risk of blue on blue, or in simpler terms, friendly fire. Lastly is the point ambush. This is any ambush where the fire is concentrated from one direction. It could be a single shooter or a small team. It's less about destruction and more about harassment, assassination, or initiation of a larger engagement. Now, you know about ambushes, now you need to know how to react to one. The key is immediate, violent action. Surprise is the ambusher's greatest weapon, so you must steal it back. This is done by immediately returning fire, with full-on hatred behind every bullet you send back at these motherfuckers. The moment you're ambushed, everyone returns fire in the direction of the enemy. This suppresses them and tells them you're not an easy target and you just fucked up, prepare for the worst day ever. The last thing you want to do is run away immediately without shooting back, or just freezing up. Do not freeze and do nothing. Next, you have to assault through the kill zone. What this means is fighting your way out of the ambush zone. The kill zone is the area where the enemy's fire is concentrated. Your instinct will be to retreat. This is actually often wrong. The best response is to assault directly into the enemy's position. They expect you to run away. Attacking them disrupts their plan, makes them have to grab for cover, and can allow you to assault effectively. But sometimes you cannot do this. Instead of running away, the more technical and correct answer is breaking contact. If assaulting isn't possible, use smoke grenades or suppressing fire to cover your movement as you break contact and retreat to a pre-designated rally point. This is the concept of bounding, where you shoot at the enemy position and your buddy moves backwards to his set position. Then, he suppresses the enemy and you move backwards. That's all there is to it. It's quite simple. You can do this for retreating and advancing on a position. Since I'm talking about retreating, that is why I say you need to move backwards. Now, let's go over the 5 principles of good defense, often referred to as the 5 Ds. If you're in a static position, meaning you're defending something and not moving or milling around, like defending a home or a camp, think in terms of the 5 Ds. The first D is to detect. Use observation posts and early warning systems, like tripwires with blank shotgun shells, electronic sensors if they're available to you, or even something as simple as ring cameras or trail cameras to detect the enemy as far out as possible. Next is denial of movement. Use obstacles like falling over trees, sea wire, or make your own obstacles like minefields, or even blowing massive craters into the ground to disrupt enemy vehicle movements, to force the enemy into areas where you want them to go, like your fatal funnel, or to slow them down. Disrupt is next. Use mines, booby traps, or long-range fire from a marksman or sniper rifle to break up the enemy's formation and plans before they can even reach you. Next is to destroy. When the enemy is in your primary engagement area, use coordinated fire to destroy them. This one's pretty obvious. Lastly is defense. Have a solid plan for the final defensive position. This is MET-TC dependent. With all that being said, let's go over communications now. In a grid-down or monitored environment, communication is your biggest challenge. I'm not a huge comms nerd, so this section won't be long, but I do know some basic shit that anyone can learn easily. There's 2 types of radios any civilian can get their hands on. For easy-to-acquire civilian use, Family Radio Service or FRS, and General Mobile Radio Service or GMERS are common. GMERS requires a license but offers more power and channels. Let's quickly go over radio etiquette. You do not want to be the guy who is hot micing or stumbling over his words and taking up precious airtime when keying up on the radio. Use clear, concise language. Use the NATO phonetic alphabet like Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie for clarity. Keep transmissions short to avoid detection. And lastly, security. Assume every transmission is being monitored. Develop simple, pre-planned codes for common situations. The weather is clear could mean no threat. The weather is turning could mean enemy approaching. I heavily recommend getting a copy of the book The Guerrilla's Guide to the Bowfang by NC Scout to learn more about practical radio usage. Like I said, I am not a genie with radios, so take it up with an expert instead. Now, let's go up against the threats you will face. This is the enemy weapon systems as an encompassing whole. Not just their guns and drones, but also chemical threats. You must know what you're up against. The likelihood of a chemical attack on civilians is low, but the consequences are extremely high. Basic knowledge is key. There are multiple types of chemical threats. There is nerve agents, and if you played the COD Black Ops 1 campaign, then you know what it is already, like sarin gas. These can cause uncontrollable muscle contractions and then suffocation. Then there is blister agents, or called mustard gas. This was used a lot in World War I. These cause chemical burns to skin, eyes, and lungs. Last is choking agents, or chlorine gas. Anyone can make this stuff. It's more common to make than you think, and it's genuinely scary shit. This makes it so you just can't breathe, and you just choke and die. There is hand and arm signals for detecting CBRN threats. You should close your eyes and mouth and hold your breath while donning your pro mask so that you can minimize exposure here. However, the best way to combat chemical threats is to get the hell out of Dodge. There is only one way to fight back against this, and the key is speed. Immediately put on your pro mask or protective mask. If you are exposed to this stuff, you'll have to decon or decontaminate yourself by stripping off all of your clothes and washing with a lot of water and soap. A simple painter's suit and properly rated gas mask are very prudent preparations for CBRN threats. Now, let's go over enemy weapon systems. You don't need to be an expert, but you should recognize the weapons that enemies use and how to use them. Simple stuff like where the magazine release is, where the safety is, and how to reload it. Now, for small arms, you will certainly encounter these. And by small arms, I mean handheld weapons that can be carried. In America, this will be mostly AR pattern rifles. If you live in somewhere like Eastern Europe or even the Middle East, you might be exposed more to AK pattern rifles, but the concept still applies. You need to be familiar with these weapon systems. Now, you should still be familiar with heavy weapon systems, even if you don't have access to them. You need to recognize the sound and effect of weapons like the M2 Browning 50 cal if you're in America, which is the most common one that the military uses. Or if you're in Eastern Europe or the Middle East, it's something like a Dishka or a PKM. You also need to know what an AT-4 looks like or a Javelin rocket. Again, in different parts of the world, this could be something like a Romanian PSL or an RPG. Knowing what you're hearing tells you what you're facing. Lastly, let's talk about drones. Drones are the modern scout and bomber. You must understand that small drones being purchased off of Temu and Amazon for cheap can and will be used for surveillance. The sound of a drone is now the sound of a potential threat. Have a plan for light discipline and concealment from aerial observation. Drones could get a whole entire video in and of itself. Now, let's discuss fitness, because in the wise words of Grand Thumb, if you're not fit, you're going to die. Because all the knowledge in the world is useless if you can't carry your gear 5 miles up a hill. Try to focus on functional fitness, not solely just bodybuilding. Respect to those guys for sure, and they're a lot stronger than I am most of the times. And I'm not saying they're useless or out of shape, but what I'm saying here is that you will have a different set of fitness goals. Now, for cardio, you need to do lots of cardio. You're now best buddies with cardio whether you like it or not. Run, ruck, cycle, or swim, I don't care, get used to it. Start building endurance. Start slow and build up though. Cardio sucks, but just keep doing it and pushing yourself without injuring yourself. Now for strength. Bodyweight exercises are my preferred favorite. Push-ups, pull-ups, squats, lunges, all of that. You need to be able to move your own body effectively. All strength training is good though, so if you're hitting the barbell, that works just as fine. Now, last but not least is stretching. Stretch regularly, more than you think you need to. Stretching is going to prevent the majority of physical injuries. Injuries from being stiff and unbalanced will take you out of the fight faster than anything. Let's go over teamwork and leadership now, which is something that's very important. Teamwork is about trust. You guys need to train together. Help each other out. Know each other's strengths and weaknesses. A cohesive team of average individuals will defeat a group of uncoordinated experts every single time. Now, for leadership, which is often a term that many people just get completely incorrect. Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. A leader makes decisions, communicates clearly, and leads from the front. The leader will take responsibility for both successes and failures. It's a very important role. Last but not least, before the end of this video, let's talk about your home, the home front. Literally, your home and your neighborhood, because your preparedness starts at home. Secure your base first. You have to make sure your bed is made before you can take over the world. First up, add some very basic security measures to your home. Put a bush in front of your window. Close the blinds correctly so that you can look out but people can't see in. Put bushes with thorns in them near your windows. Set up a security camera. Put security film on windows so people can't see in, but you're still able to see out. Also, set up a sprinkler system so people like vagrants and looters don't want to come by and get wet. Yes, it sounds funny, but it's actually quite that simple. Get some really strong doors and a good deadbolt. And lastly, some good exterior lighting. Not just a front porch light, but maybe some walkway lighting. You can add security measures to your home without even realizing it, while also not making your house look like the one psycho guy who lives down the street. Normal, but efficient and tactical. Remember, as we said earlier, the gray man theory. Make your home a harder target than the average house. Now, for supplies, and I go over this in my basic prepper video more extensively, check that out if you want to. Have a minimum of 2 weeks of food, water, and essential medications for your family. A first aid kit with refills and multiple IFAKs that you know how to use is non-negotiable. I like to stock up on Mountain House meals, MREs, and bottled water. Lastly is community and neighbors. You need to make friends with neighbors before shit goes down, so this one is pretty crucial. Just be friendly with your neighbors, even if they seem a bit weird to you for whatever reason that may be. They live next to you after all. Get to know your neighbors. You cannot do this alone. A prepared neighborhood is a resilient neighborhood. Build trust now before you need it. It's a lot easier for old man Bill down the street to share some of his canned food and ammo stash that he's been stocking up that no one even knew about if he knows you already, compared to you just showing up one day and asking for it because you're starving. That about wraps up this very essential and quite long video. Holy cow, I had a hell of a time making this video and a lot of thinking and brainstorming. I made this one longer and more extensive than usual because I haven't made a Minuteman video in a while. But let me reinforce this idea. This is not a weekend hobby. This is a lifestyle shift. It is the quiet, deliberate process of becoming competent, resilient, and free. Start with one thing, like physical fitness, and master it. Then move on to the next. You do not need to be, nor will you, become an expert in one single day. Practice your movement drills in the backyard. Granted, you have a fence to cover you so your neighbors don't see you, because frankly, it's a little bit strange. But if you don't care, then go off king. You should go on a camping trip and use your Fieldcraft skills. This is easily the best way to practice them. Run the OODA loop from the beginning of the video on your drive to work. The goal is not to live in fear, because the only thing to fear is fear itself. This is more about being able to operate from a position of confidence and strength. You are taking responsibility for your own safety and the safety of those that you love. You are becoming a modern citizen patriot, a guardian of things that truly matter. That's all from me today. God bless you and your families, and always put America first and only. Now go train. Jimmy Talks out.